The teams with the 2 first picks in the draft are the Panthers and Texans, and we're going to be comparing these situations and answering the question of which situation is better for a young quarterback. Now, Drew, you gave me a sneak peek on your Twitter. I know you're going to side with the Texans.
I am.
Dehls, I'm curious to see what you're going to say first. Texans or Panthers, what situation is better?
I like both these situations, right? I do have a preference here, and it's going to go against Drew's. I do think it's the Panthers.
Okay.
If you want to talk specifically weapons, I could get it, right, with the Texans' recent signings. I love the Dalton Schultz signing. First of all, the fact that Josh Oliver got $21 million and Dalton Schultz got 1 year, $8-9 million. I mean, if this was a couple of weeks ago or last episode, I would have had Schultz on, one of the best values of all free agency. He's one of the better pass catching tight ends in the league. And the fact that Dallas couldn't retain him for that low of a contract is a bit, eye-opening. But I think it's the Panthers because most importantly, I believe coaching staff develops quarterbacks more than anything, right? I think you could have great weapons. I think you could have a great offensive line. But if you have a bad coach and a coach who cannot develop a quarterback, it's going to be really hard for that quarterback to reach its true potential. And then the Panthers, who, like we mentioned in the previous topic, Frank Reich, Josh McCown, they brought in guys who, Josh McCown, obviously first-time coach, but Frank Reich has had a track record of developing quarterbacks no matter what stage of their career, whether it's young, whether they're older. Obviously, they went through 1,000 quarterbacks in Indy, and although the division wasn't great, they were always in competition outside of this last season of win that division, go into the playoffs, and a lot of that had to do with Frank Reich. Although he wasn't developing the Phillip Rivers of the world and Carson Wentz's, he still had a major output on their seasons, and we saw what happened when Carson Wentz went to Washington. And then you see the moves they made this offseason. Miles Sanders, who I thought was a bit of an overpay, but still they let Deontay Foreman walk, so they had to get a running back. Hayden Hurst, solid tight end. Adam Thielen, probably a number 3 at this point. But the way their wide receiver room was looking, he's probably their best wide receiver, depending on how you feel about Terrence Marshall. But they still have picks 39, 93, couple of 4th, couple of 5th round picks. So I think with at least one of those picks, especially in that 39 range, you're going to have multiple wide receivers who could have possibly been in 1st round talents who are going to slip to that 2nd round. There's really, outside of a couple guys, there's just a huge gap of good wide receivers in this draft class, but none that really are going to jump off the screen, especially when you get into day 2 of this draft. Then you bring in Dameon Pierce as well, and they signed Devin Singletary as well to be a complimentary back.
I didn't like that.
Didn't love it either. I think they need a body there, and extending Laramie Tunsil was huge too.
Enormous.
But I do think the Panthers, the moves they made, coupled with the coaching decisions and the offensive line, who I think will be maybe on par with the Texans because of how great Tunsil is. He could really bring up that whole group if you're going to be able to just lock down that blind side the way he's able to. But I just believe in Frank Reich, that coaching staff to develop a quarterback, and the weapons will come over time.
You mentioned Laramie Tunsil and them the Texans extending him, giving him a 3-year, $75 million contract, making the highest paid tackle in the NFL. They also acquired Shaq Mason from a trade from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They extended Quessenberry. So they're trying to build a strong offensive line for their future quarterback, which right now, as it seems, is going to be Bryce Young. Now, the way I see it, now you bring in Bryce Young to be your franchise quarterback, of course, number 2 overall. That's the expectation. You also do have the 12th overall selection from the Cleveland Browns. And who's going to fall into your lap potentially? JSN, the best wide receiver in this class, if you're talking to Andrew Velez. And you pair that with already acquiring Robert Woods. Joel mentioned it, Dalton Schultz, one of the best offseason signings I've seen, a 1-year, $9 million deal. And that's also due to the high-level tight ends in this draft as well. And he's trying to play the market for next season. So signing a 1-year prove-it deal, I think that he is going to be Bryce Young's early favorite targets early in the season because he's one of the most reliable tight ends in the game. And I simply see it as why I would rather play for this team is because I have more weapons and more weapons that I could actually trust. Adam Thielen at this point in his career, we can acknowledge that Adam Thielen once was a great wide receiver in this league. At this point in time, he's not that. Terrence Marshall has shown promise at times, but he is a wide receiver 3 also, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's shown just as much as like Elijah Moore.
Oh, man, I don't know about all that.
He has, though.
But you have reliability in Robert Woods. John Mechie, God willing, will return this season.
Exciting.
Now, potentially, you add JSN to this core. Now that's a respectable wide receiver group. And then, of course, now you add to the fact that Dalton Schultz is there and a solid offensive line. And I forgot to mention Dameon Pierce, who was one of the best rookie running backs last season. Now, I may not be a huge fan of the Devin Singletary signing, but at least he is a solid pass-catching back if you need him to do so. But Dameon Pierce showed that he can do a little bit of everything. I think this offense is ready right now to have at least some type of success. And this is exactly what you want. You want a rookie quarterback to be paired with a rookie wide receiver, the best wide receiver in this class, and to have them grow together with this core around them. I understand the defense does need help in terms of the front seven, because I think this secondary is solid. But right now, if you are the Houston Texans, you need to prioritize offense, because you lost that once Deshaun was gone, and of course once you traded DeAndre Hopkins. But right now, this draft, the 2023 NFL draft, could be a huge step for the Houston Texans rebuild. And I think that we will look years in the future and look at this 2023 draft as the class that changed the Houston Texans. Getting Bryce and getting JSN immediately makes this offense exciting, especially with just the low-key signings. Dalton Schultz, Robert Woods, and God willing, Mechie's back. Bryce has guys that he can rely on off rip.
Nico Collins there, Brevin Jordan,
No
who
doubt.
I know people are high on.
That's a fact. Brevin Jordan had a solid...
Sorry, did I take away your Brevin Jordan, Sean? Are we going to go into a 5-minute soliloquy on him?
Jordan. He's good, man.
I know you're a big Panthers guy.
Listen, for
that
me...
defense is solid, so I understand that aspect. But the offense, really... I'm sorry, I didn't mention the Panthers. Just really quick before you go. I see the upside in terms of team success. The defense is solid, absolutely. But in terms of offense, I'm not turned on by the idea of Adam Thielen being my wide receiver one.
You're on D&D, bro.
Dude, my phone vibrated?
So much.
Bro, I'm sorry. That's lack of professionalism for me.
Maybe somebody just disturbed you anyway.
Maybe. They delivered quietly.
Yeah.
That's some bullshit that they allowed that.
So I look at the Texans, and the way they build their team is interesting, because it's kind of been like 2 off seasons now where they're just handing out 1-year deals to players. Shaq Mason has 1 year left on his contract. Dalton Schultz is on a prove-it year. It's a 1-year, $9 million deal. Like, I get it. It's a good signing for the Texans. There's a reason why the Cowboys didn't bring him back.
Why is that?
Because he's easily replaceable by somebody.
I was going to say, they liked Ferguson a lot.
They do.
And there's good talent in this draft. So.
I think if they want to draft Dalton Kincaid or Michael Mayer or Darnell Washington in the second round, I mean, that'll replace Schultz pretty easily.
Tight ends take a while to develop, though.
Oh, whatever. You know,
Outside of Kyle Pitts, it really takes a while.
Does it?
It does.
To get to Schultz level?
Yeah, I mean, Schultz
Maybe
is...
to elite
Schultz was,
level.
what, an 800, 900-yard?
Yeah, for sure. That's a very small list of rookie tight ends who did that.
But you look at the Houston Texans,
Pitts and Dicka.
I think the Singletary signing was good, because in the NFL now, you don't want a workhorse running back. You want running backs to kind of share snaps. And I look at...
Call me a boomer. Give me my running back to be a workhorse, excuse me.
I look at what the
30
Texans were this past season. They finished as the worst team in the league at generating yards before contact in the running game, averaging just 0.8 yards all year.
Great.
Laramie Tunsil was a top 3 left tackle last season. Shaq Mason had a 93% pass block win rate, which is very good. He's also a very stout run blocker. Ultimately, when it comes to the Panthers and the Texans and the situation, you guys mentioned off the talent they each have. For me, it comes down to coaching staff. And when I look at the Panthers coaching staff, you have Frank Reich, Josh McCown, Sean Jefferson, a wide receivers coach who's developed some good wide receivers in his tenure, Duke Staley, Ajero Vero, Dom Capers, Jim Caldwell. This is an all-star coaching staff. You couldn't ask for a better coaching staff.
Really good coaching staff.
And I'd rather be missing a wide receiver than missing an offensive line. The Texans have Laramie Tunsil, who's an elite offensive lineman. Titus Howard is okay.
Yep.
And Shaq Mason is good. Questenberry was horrible this past season.
No doubt.
You look at the Panthers' offensive line, Aquanu's going to be an elite left tackle. Brady Christensen is solid. Bradley Bozeman is a good starting center. Austin Corbett is a good right guard. You look at Taylor Mond, he's one of the better right tackles in the league. And he just had his best pass protecting season this past season. He only allowed Martin had his best pass protecting season this season, but we're talking about Aquanu. He only allowed 27 pressures on 552 pass blocking snaps. And they have the 10th best rushing offense in 2022. If it wasn't for Matt Rule not having an idea on how to run this offense or how to play to their strengths, they would have been better. But until he got fired, that's when they started running the ball. Steve Wilks understood the strengths of the team. I mean, Devontae Foreman is a journeyman running back, and he had 914 yards and 5 touchdowns.
He was successful with Tennessee the year prior, though.
No, Devontae Foreman is a good player. And Tennessee's also a run-first team. They have the schematics for them. They know what they're going to do, and they're a good run-blocking team. I can count on the Panthers being a great running team out the gate, like a top 10 running attack in the league. And you add Miles Sanders to that, they're probably going to add another running back. I didn't like the price tag for Sanders. I don't think Sanders is worth that. I think he's just another running back. But in this system with this offensive line, he'll get his yardage.
1,110 touchdowns. You're bound to get paid.
And Terrace Marshall, I'm very high on him. I think that he's going to have a good season. You know, is he a wide receiver number 1? He's probably not.
Is he a wide receiver 2?
I think he can be. I like Terrace Marshall Jr. a lot.
I can be anything I put my mind to, you know?
I like Terrace Marshall Jr. a lot.
He showed his rookie year, he did nothing. He was basically didn't suit up for most of the season. Last year, he had some moments here or there, but Elijah Moore has shown more. Put some respect on his name.
Do you know Terrace Marshall had a better season than him, right?
Say his rookie year.
No, I'm saying compared to second years, Terrace Marshall was better.
Not surprising. Zach, Elijah had the worst quarterback in the league.
Yeah, the Panthers had great quarterback play.
So much better.
I'm
so
sure.
much better.
I'm sure it was so much better, right?
How many more targets do you think Marshall had?
Mike White played some games, right?
Yeah, that's when Elijah Moore was good. He had like one good game.
Facts.
Mike White.
No, it wasn't. Even when Mike White was in there, he didn't play well. Oh, Chicago! Everybody, come on. They had 8 backups in the game.
Zach Wilson would have done that.
I would hope you did.
No way. He would have made it a close game.
But looking at the Texans staff, they were the 25th ranked passing offense, 31st ranked rushing offense. And their offensive coordinator is going to be a first-time OC. His name is Bobby Slowick. And he was an offensive assistant with the 49ers for 2 years. Then it was the passing game coordinator. Him coming from the Shanahan tree does make me feel better. I think that he'll bring some innovative ideas. And just looking at how the Texans are building their roster, they're going to pivot to a more run-heavy, play-action attack to help their young quarterback. But I really love them getting Shane Day. He's their offensive assistant. He was the Niners quarterback coach. The past 2 years, he's been the Chargers quarterback coach, coaching up Justin Herbert. I like those moves, but listen, I think the talent is similar. The talent is similar. You could lean the Texans in terms of the receiving talent. But at this stage in their career, Robert Woods and Adam Thielen is like a toss-up.
No doubt.
That's a toss-up.
You want to take a Elijah Moore versus Terrace Marshall bet?
We can do that.
Okay. Comp 50?
After the draft.
Comp 50.
After the draft?
See who the Panthers draft.
Does it matter if they took Stroud or Bryce?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about in terms of how many receivers they draft.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I don't think the Panthers, maybe at 39 is really the only spot that an impact receiver would come in.
But I look at the Panthers' offensive line clears the Texans' offensive line, in my opinion. They have a better rush attack. Their coaching staff is better. The receivers, the Texans have it because Dalton Schultz, he gives them a bit of an edge. But ultimately, I think that you can find that. The Panthers could very well draft a tight end in the second round and a receiver, and I'm like, now it's even. So
very limited draft capital, though, you got to remember. They only have, outside the number 1 pick, 3 or 4 draft picks.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at all young quarterbacks come into the NFL, usually their first season is the year that they don't have overwhelmingly great receiving talent.
It's true.
And then the second year, third year, you get that for them. I think the Panthers will get it eventually. I think that C.J. Stroud will be in a better situation.
If C.J. Stroud proves early, of course, they're going to try and surround him with as much weapons as
possible.
possible.
The Panthers could make the playoffs in the NFC South. I mean, every team in the NFC South has a chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah. And also, does it bother you that historically, first-time play caller with rookie head coach doesn't always work out? I mean, Zach Wilson is obviously the first name that comes to mind.
I guess, do we want to talk about Josh McCown as well, being a first-time play caller also?
That's true, but Frank Reich's there.
I
know.
get it. No doubt. No,
So,
I think the coaching situation
is he going to be a play caller?
I don't know if McCown's calling plays.
No, it's going to be Reich. I only say that because the first-time OC, and I know D'Amico's
I don't know if
obviously
McCown's the
offensive.
OC, though. I think he's just the quarterback's coach.
Whatever you want to call it. To me, either which way, I understand the coaching situation significantly better with the Panthers.
We think D'Amico Ryan's going to be great. Let's not get twisted. We think D'Amico Ryan's going to be a really good coach. Just
no doubt.
Rookie quarterback, you would like to have the offensive guy.
I get
McCown is the quarterback's coach. The offense coordinator is Thomas Brown.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
And D'Amico brought over a guy from the 49ers.